All my life, you have been faithful. You know, one thing you can say among all the accolades that can be placed upon the Lord, all the honors, He's due every bit of it. But the thing that I really want to focus on is that He's faithful. We serve a faithful God. A God that is always on time and a God who never fails. That's what you call faithfulness right there. During the football season, a lot of people get disappointed, baseball season, whatever it is, because sometimes their team wins, sometimes they lose. But when you join in with the things of God, you're on the winning team every time. All you got to do is stay close to Him. He'll be there with you every step that you take. Let me just make a couple of announcements. If y'all want to just stand right here, we're fixing to allow our classes to go. But let me just mention a couple of things. The ushers are going to be here. We'll give you a chance to give in the offering. Don't forget, we're collecting gift cards. You can bring those in the offering. You can bring them this Sunday. Or if you want to give a monetary gift, we want to help out some families. We have people in our own church that needs help. And I know this time of the year we feel a lot of people. My mailbox is almost full with people asking, from the Leukemia Society to you name it, to have donations. And there's nothing wrong with helping. But the Bible said, do good unto all men. Everybody say all men. But especially unto them who are of the household of faith. So right here, we find out that there's needs. There's people that have special needs, and for different reasons. Sometimes it's loss of a job or whatever, and we want to help them out. So when you're out shopping and if you pick up a gift card or two for somebody, sometimes we bring things to people that we don't even know. We at the office or at school or something, we got to bring some little gift, and somebody's going to get that gift that we don't really know who they are. We don't know how to buy for them, but these are people that you fellowship with. So bring that. Let me mention to you also, got a great service on Sunday. This will be Christmas at Royalwood this coming Sunday. A lot of things that you're going to want to see at 10 o'clock. It's going to be one of the most outstanding services that we've ever had. And that night at 7 o'clock, everybody say 7 o'clock, Sunday night, we have rented the entire skating rink at the Galleria for Royalwood Church at 7 o'clock for you to be able to skate. We want you to get signed up. Listen, the ages, if you can put them in an infant's car seat and put skates on it, they're welcome to come. If Granny comes on her walker, she can skate. There is no limit on that. $10, you get your skates. Look, just come on out anyway. If you say, I can't skate, I'm not going to skate, that doesn't really matter. You can come and sit around and we can laugh at other people that are skating. So be a part of that. That's going to be coming. Then next Wednesday night, which I think is the 18th, is what we call Rejuvenite. That's for volunteers. If you've been a volunteer, we're going to honor you on that night. There would be no midweek service that night. So it'll just be for the volunteers. We're going to have a great time with them. We're going to honor them, and we have many, many people. So get signed up for that. So we want to know, because everybody that gets signed up, you're a volunteer. We want to know how many $100 bills do we need to have. Okay? Not to give to our volunteers, but I mean, it'd just be good to know how many $100 bills. But get signed up for that, because we want you to be here on that Wednesday night. It is a fantastic time. We want to tell you thank you. Don't forget, this coming Sunday, 10 o'clock, Sunday evening at 7 o'clock, we've got the whole place to ourselves, so you want to be there. Just come on and celebrate with us. We're going to let you give, and if you have cards, I was thinking, if you have credit cards, throw them in here. If you have gift cards, throw them in there. But if you have a credit card, you want to throw that in there, we could just put something on there that we think you should be giving, and tonight would be the night for you to do that. You'll be able to give. Anthem students are going to be leaving us. We are saddened by that. They're going to be going. All the city kids are going to be going. We really are going to miss them tonight. But come on and give unto the Lord. Let's be a blessing to the kingdom of God. God's been extremely good to us. All our life, He's been faithful. Come on and give unto the Lord. You that are needing to be dismissed, go ahead and do that now. We'll let you be a part of that. You that are sitting back a little bit, you can move up a little bit. It's not going to hurt you. If you would like to, you can kind of. I'm not making you. I'm just telling you. I'm just saying, any of you ever, while you're standing, listen what I want to tell you. Some of you used to go to the club. the dive. You country and western guys, you know, the stomp, the dance hall. And I'm going to tell you something that was told me that people do. They like to get up close to the dancing floor. Because when that song comes out, they got to get out there right then. So I think sometimes when you come to the house of God, you want to kind of get under the spout where the glory's coming out. Turn around and shake hands with a few people. I want you to loosen up a little bit. Gloria a Dios, hermano. You can be seated. I told Isaac the other day, when I was just a kid in elementary school, we had to learn Spanish. We did not have one Hispanic person in our elementary. It was years before I saw Hispanic people in school. But we had to learn Spanish. The problem was it wasn't anything we were able to use in our later life because it was proper Spanish and the wording was different. But I did remember that my name was Ronaldo. Not Ronald, but Ronaldo. And to me, that just sounds like it's more important. So I always tell Isaac, hey, Isaac, this is Ronaldo. Aren't you glad to be together in the house of the Lord? You know what I'm wondering today? I know none of you said anything, but I'm going to take it for granted that you're really glad to be here. I'm glad to be here. Amen. Thank you. That's 5, 6. You guys on Wednesday night, Moses, listen. I want to tell you, I was listening to this. I listened to that stuff he was playing. Do y'all ever listen to him? Oh, my Lord. And the guy playing the drums, I couldn't see him. It was dark in there. We're going to have to spotlight him a little bit better than that because I wanted to see who that was because Brooks was playing with him step by step. And the thing that, whenever they were doing all of that, and he was playing all those chords and stuff, I hear something just came on. Is that the thing where they lift me up out of the service and all that, you know? I was listening to that. And I thought, this is Wednesday night, and this sounds like Sundays. And I thank you for that, Moses. But let me tell you what I thought about. You know, it's Wednesday night, how you get here. He's got another job, by the way, maybe 2 or 3 others, I don't know. But you do all that stuff, they prepare and they sing and they get all that stuff together. And this is the thought that comes to me. That what makes a good church a great church is what you do when everything's not in your favor. It's one thing if it's that special Sunday morning or that special service. Everybody's here, everything's going on. It's Easter, it's the Christmas thing next week, this coming weekend, all of that stuff. Well, you say, oh boy, that's great. And that is wonderful. But when you come where you had to fight the traffic and you had to go through so much, then they play like that, they sing like that, it just blessed me. I wasn't really ready to get into it like they made me do when I got in here. And I'm thankful for that. I want to talk to you for a few minutes. You know, the other day, all these years they've been taping my messages. I don't know, I guess we did that from the start. We had cassette tapes. And we had what was called a tape ministry. Does anybody ever remember this? Now that the kids are out, they probably wouldn't know what this is, but some of y'all can relate to this. Some of y'all can relate to 8-track tape. Some of y'all maybe even could relate to reel tape. I had an 8-track tape. First 8-track tape I got was a little group. I think it was Christian. It's called Creedence Clearwater Revival. And my mom and dad let me have the 45 record I bought. They wouldn't let us listen to anything but Christian music. But when they saw Revival, thought it might be Christian. I don't know what was wrong with my tape player, but I had to put some cardboard in there so it wouldn't double track because it would play 2 tracks at the time. That was back in the wonderful day. But we had cassette tapes. And then we moved on to something really exciting, and that was called CDs. We had a CD ministry, and we could record. And we couldn't wait till we could we could duplicate a whole bunch of them. We had a tower where you could just duplicate a whole bunch of them. And so we did that. And then that became obsolete. So all these CDs and cassette tapes, when we built the new church and stuff, they put them all in boxes and they got moved around everywhere. And finally, they got moved to our house, and we decided we were going to do something with those. And we thought, what in the world are we going to be able to do? First of all, I had to search to find a cassette tape player. I used to have one in my car, but I don't now. I used to have an AM radio, but I don't have that either. But we got all those together, and there were over 5,000 messages that I preached in this church. A lot of sermons. I looked through those things, and I thought, the thought that came to me is, have I helped anybody with all this? And then it dawned on me, and this is why I'm saying what I want to say here for just a minute. I'm prefacing it with this. Is what I want to talk about today, I don't know that anybody ever, it helps anybody. I want to help. That's the number one thing. I'm going to be frank with you, be honest with you. I looked at some of those tapes and I thought, this was good. I don't mean bragging on myself. It was just like, man, I need to listen to that. I need that right now. And I don't know if it went over people's heads. I don't know if they grasped it. I don't know if it just started sinking into some people. I wondered if it did any good. But what I want to talk about today, it's not going to, don't be scared of this, but it's something I don't know that anybody is really going to take it to heart or do anything with it. But I'm not going to stop trying, because somewhere I'm hoping something gets a hold of us. And tonight I'm going to be talking about the hardest word. Let's go to the book of Matthew real quick. Matthew, the 5th chapter. And the 23rd verse. Now, this is what Jesus is telling them. My wife's grandfather always used to say this when he would quote the Bible or scripture. He would say, Jesus says in red letter. That means you better listen to that. If you have a Bible like this, you see it's red letters. So that means Jesus is talking. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and you remember that your brother has aught against you, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way, and be reconciled to your brother. And then come and offer your gift. Agree with thine adversary quickly, while you're in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver you into the hand of the judge, and the judge deliver you into the hand of the officer, and you be cast into prison. Then he says, verily I say unto you, thou shalt by no means come out thence till you have paid the uttermost farthing. In other words, the complete debt. So I'm going to talk to you just for a little bit about the hardest word. Turn to somebody and say, we're going to find out what the hardest word is. You can be seated. Somebody said one time when they were talking about marriage, they said, I'm giving advice to our young men in our church that's about to get married, and I've told them some things that they need to learn to say. And I was thinking they were going to drop some big nuggets, that were going to tell me some great things. And I said, well, what do you start with? He said, well, I start with it. If you're going to be married, you're going to have a successful marriage, you got to learn this. Yes, ma'am. In other words, to the wife, yes, ma'am. And then he went on down the line and had several funny things that he was going to say about it. I don't know that, I'm not going to be preaching about you guys learning how to say yes, ma'am. I do know this, and this is in the Bible, but I do know that Sarah called Abraham Lord, and I'm not going to start teaching that you guys are going to enter into a lordship arrangement here. I personally believe that if you're going to have a marriage, you're going to have a team, and you got to learn how to work together, and you got to learn how to give ground. And if you're one of those people that can't give ground, you're not going to have any ground to give at some point. You got to learn how to do that. You don't know how to work together. You got to learn how to forgive. You got to learn how to do the things that you need to do to make the relationship work. None of it's perfect. Nobody has all the answers. I read back sometimes, and I've read books of people that could tell us about love languages, and they could tell you about how you needed to conduct your marriage, and I found out some of them weren't even married. So don't tell me about how to do it because you read it in a book somewhere, you studied it in college, until you're able to get in and be able to do that in your own life. I won't be talking about those kinds of words or what you need to say. But what I want to talk to you about is that when you get to a place where you're in the altar or you're at a place where you realize, and you should realize, in prayer or going through life, that I need to make something right. I told somebody this not too long ago. We were talking about injustices, and I felt like there were some things that had happened in my life and that I had been wronged, and so it caused me to be estranged from those that I had worked with or whatever the situation was. And I told somebody this. I said, I'm not going to be able to let that stand. And even though I don't believe that I had anything to do with causing that situation, I said, what's going to happen to me? I know me well enough to know this. I may be upset. I may be angry. I may say, I will never speak to that person again. I'm not saying that I said that, but I'm just saying I could say that. But I know I'm going to be praying somewhere. And while I'm praying, the Lord's going to say, you need to get up and go make that right. That's what I know he's going to say to me. Now, is he saying that to the other person? I don't know. Maybe they're so dull, they don't ever hear that voice. But I'm not paying attention to that other person. I've got to go with what the Lord is telling me. And he's going to tell me, you need to fix that. You need to be the person that repents. I'm going to talk to you today that the hardest word is sorry. The hardest word is sorry. I don't know why they have a game called sorry. You ever played sorry? What was that game we played the other night? What's it called? Mexican Train. I don't know if you ever played that or not. Anybody ever played that? Yeah. No, I'm not talking about coming over the border. I'm talking about with dominoes, which I always thought dominoes were wrong, you know? Until some of our people, we'd have those fun nights, they'd be up there doing that. And I'd come by and say, is money changing hands here? Because that's what they did. And so some of our men, when I passed by one day, they had a few dollars laid up there on the table. And I said, don't even start because I'll be preaching on Sunday and I'm going to get every one of you. But we were playing that. And I didn't have all the details. They were telling me all the stuff to do. And I thought, let's get back to chutes and ladders. Let's get back to sorry. Which I always, listen, there was something about that when you got right up to the home. You remember this? You got a place where you get your man right up there, and then you draw something, and you got to go back all the way out. Sorry. Oh, you can't hardly say that. But that's what we used to play. Sorry was a game, but really sorry is not a game. It's something that is the hardest thing for people to ever say and to ever come to. And in thinking today, and I want to help you in this, because I've watched people through the years carry an incredible load in their home, in their families, with loved ones, with people they work with people in church. There are people today that are away from God because they got something in their heart and they just couldn't get it out. It just bothered them from the get-go. You know, I remember when Brandon was a young boy, there was a guy that was helping with our youth, and he and one of his buddies were sitting up there at the front, and this guy that was helping with our youth, he's not here and hadn't been here for a long, long time, but he kind of was, once he got that place and position, kind of went to his head, and he was trying to make everybody dot every I and cross every T. He had forgotten he was trouble when he was growing up. But he got on to Brandon and, Brandon's little friend and all that. And that youth guy came and told me what they had done, which it didn't seem like it deserved, a convo. It just, whatever it was. And so then the guy, Brandon, his friend, came to me and said, Dad, we weren't even doing that. That's not what was going on, And I said, well, go tell him you're sorry. And they looked at me like I had lost my mind. We didn't do anything. Dad, he's guilty, not us. I said, well, even if he is, just go tell him that you're sorry that this happened and you're sorry that he had to come up and say anything to you. Okay, well, here they go. Because you got to learn how to say, I'm sorry. Were you guilty? Were you not guilty? Well, there's times, I told Brandon this one time, I want to use him as an example. And there are times I use him and it's not a good example. I think you know that. And so he came home one day, he was in elementary school, Green Valley Elementary. He was about this big, and he came home and he had gotten in trouble by the teacher. I said, what happened? He said, oh, Joey, or whatever the guy's name was. He said, he asked me my name and he hit me, and I turned around and hit him. I said, he did that because you just told him your name? He said, yeah. I said, we're going to change your name. That's what I told him. We're going to change your name. That name's getting you hit. And he said, well, that's what happened. And I said, well, you got to be careful. You can't be pushing. You can't be shoving. Well, he came home several times. He was always having something. I was just sitting there, and this guy came up. I was just sitting there, and they made me sit out in the hall. I sat there. I got in trouble. And then one day I said, son, just one time, I'd like you to tell me, Dad, it was me. Just be the guilty one time. Don't let it always be somebody did something to me. Have you ever noticed that there are some people, they don't do wrong, but everybody does wrong to them? That is a horrible place to live in. There are times we've got to say sorry. We've got to be willing to go and say, hey, man, we've been friends. Is there something going on between us here? I feel a little odd here. Yeah, I'll tell you what, you said that the other day, and I thought you was going to do this, going to do that. Well, look, at that moment, don't get miffed. Don't get mad. Don't storm out. Don't say, well, let me tell you what you did. This is the time for you to bring this thing to an end. Anytime there's a situation in your life, you listen carefully to this, you come with two buckets in your hand. One of them is filled with water and one is full with gasoline. You can either throw a gasoline on the fire or you can throw water on it and put it out. It's in your power to do it. Some people, I don't care if they're in leadership or whatever they're doing, they don't have the guts to say, I'm sorry. That you won't get it out of them. They're never going to admit it, never at one point. But you can be bigger than that. And you can be the fixer. Well, this is not going to go over good tonight because doesn't make a lot of sense to people because, after all, Jesus said this. This is not me. I got the book on you right here. There's some roadblocks to restoration. I talked to a guy one time. He and his wife were having a lot of problems. They hadn't been married a long time. They just had a child, and he came in, he sat down and told me everything that was wrong with his wife. She was terrible. She was horrible. And then I got a chance to talk to her, and she said, well, I thought everything was good, but he was just totally unhappy. But the unhappiness was on him. And so I said, I asked him this question. I said, well, how was she when you got married? And oh, she was wonderful. Oh, we had the first 2 years of our marriage, it was just wonderful. And now she's just going crazy and, she's terrible now. And I said, then you must have done it. She was doing it fine. Got married, she was okay. In 2 years, you ruined it. He said, well, no, I'm just saying. I said, well, why don't you go to her and fix it? Well, I haven't done anything wrong. Back then, here's what his deal was. She had this baby and she had gained this weight. And he said, I try to work out and everything, and I'm watching, what I eat and everything, and it seemed like she just don't care. And I said, well, see, that's where you're wrong. This is why I don't counsel a lot, because it doesn't go over real well. I said, well, this is where you're wrong. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, see, when a woman goes through these changes and her body changes, she can go buy a billboard with a hamburger on it and gain a pound. She's not, I don't care how much you're working out. And really, he really wasn't working out. It was just, he's a guy. And so, I mean, he just had that. I saw a picture of him not too long ago, but he hasn't been expecting a baby, but that has changed his life. And he looks a little bit different. But I was trying to tell him, listen, in life, you go through things. But what you have, he said, well, I feel like I'm the leader. She's not following me. I said, if you're the leader, the Bible said that the leader or the man should be first partakers of the fruit. If you're the leader, lead. Quit sitting here like you're on a throne somewhere and waiting on everybody to come and bow their knee. Be the guy that pulls this together. Be the one that is the peacemaker. Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. You want to be a blessed person? Be a peacemaker. I've had situations in my life where I had to reach out to somebody, and it just killed me to have to do it. I didn't think I was wrong. I didn't think I should be doing this. My pastor, Brother Kilgore, made me do it like I made Brandon do and apologizing to the youth guy. And when Brother Kilgore did that, and I was telling Brother Kilgore how all the injustices that had happened, and I said, what should I do about it? He said, well, son, can't you be defrauded, the Bible says? And I said, well, yeah, but it wasn't right. He said, well, that doing what you're doing will never make that right. You go and be the person that joins yourself up with them, and you pull that thing together. He wrote me a card one time. Years later, he was already retired or semi-retired, and there was a situation I was dealing with, and he wrote me and threw all the responsibility on me to fix something. And I took that card, I slid it under some books, and I thought, man, I tell you, I love him. That's my pastor, but he has missed it a long way. He just don't know all the circumstances. He don't know what all I've been through, what all I've had to put up with. He doesn't understand any of that. But one night I was down praying, and the Lord said, you fix it. You're the one that has the key to it. You imagine this with me. The power you have to be able to bring reconciliation is unbelievable. Because in that moment, you can help that individual, but more than that, it's going to help you. And I'm going to give you some things here real quick. Got 15 minutes. There's some roadblocks to restoration. Number one, we don't like to admit that we're wrong. I'm going to tell something on my wife's brother, Kent. He's quite a character. We were on a vacation together, Kent and Jan, Alan and Rhonda. That's her two brothers and our sister-in-laws. And Kent gets in these discussions. And he got to talking to us about quantum physics. Had to make sure I said it right. And he said, do y'all understand quantum physics? No. Well, let me tell you what it is. And he started trying to explain it. And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking about something I remember Brother Mahaney told us one time when her mother was trying to tell him a story. No, I was telling a story, and he looked at me with that look, and I said, what? He said, Brother Macey, the machine has never been invented that can match my disinterested. The machine has not been invented that can measure my disinterest in what you're saying. And then he just laughed, ha, 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 ha. But when he was telling me about quantum physics, yet the machine has not been invented that can match my disinterest in this. I don't want to hear anything about it. I finally found a little book that I sent to him, and it's Quantum Physics for Dummies. And I said, I guess I need to brush up on this. But Kent told me one time in these disagreements with Jan, he said, I never admit to Jan that I'm wrong. I don't think he's ever admitted to us he's wrong, right? No, she's saying no. He said, I never admit to, I said, you don't ever say, I went to the wrong spot. No, man. I said, you need to learn how to say I'm wrong. That's a bad place to be in. Of course, we were laughing about it. But some people don't ever get to the place of sorry because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. A lot of people feel that way. You ever met anybody that they just can't admit it? They just cannot say, I'm wrong. But I know when I preach to people, they're thinking, I don't agree with that. I don't think you're right. But I always want to make sure you understand this. Don't forget, you've been wrong before. Everybody's been wrong before. Well, I thought we were supposed to turn down there. I was supposed to do that, and I made the wrong decision. We've all made mistakes. That's why they have erasers on pencils. Everybody makes mistakes. But what we have a problem with is admitting we make a mistake, because we feel like it denigrates us. It shoves us down. It pushes us down. If somebody comes to me, even if I didn't even know they had something against me, and they said, listen, I let something get in my craw. I just want to tell you, I am so sorry that ever happened. If I ever acted in any way, when I see that, I have to look up to see that person. They rise up. Because I know people don't have the nerve to do it. They don't ever get the strength to do it because they don't want to admit that they're wrong. Listen, I can't even add up all the times I've been wrong. I try my best not to be. We have all these pastors that are out of our church, and one of them was fixing to go take a church for the first time. And we were trying to sit down and explain to him, you're going to run into things. You're going to have situations, you know. And we said, Sister Macey said, and you know, y'all are going to make mistakes, but you know, God's going to help you. We're here for you. And this guy who's now still a pastor, he said, well, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try not to make any mistakes. Famous last words. Oh, and we were trying to say, well, but you can. You can make mistakes. As a pastor, you can make mistakes. Well, we're going to try real hard not to make mistakes. I didn't say it then, but it was something Brother Harold told me many, many years ago. I said, well, what mistake did I make? He said, son, sometimes if you want to have trouble, all you got to do is just show up. You didn't misjudge him on the job. You didn't say anything bad to the supervisor. You didn't do anything. You just showed up. And you got a problem. You got a situation. You can try hard not to make mistakes, but you're going to make them. But what we have to do is be Christian enough, and we've got to have enough intestinal fortitude to be able to say, I'm sorry. I've had to apologize to my children. If you've never done that, I'm preaching to you. Because as parents, sometimes I would act hastily. I would discipline when I didn't have the story. Because, you know, I was raised, when kids tried to tell you the story, it's like, I don't want to hear anything out of you. My mom and dad raised me like this. I'm not saying you have to do this. But children were to be seen but not heard. We never could go sit at the big people's table and talk at Thanksgiving. Some of you won't remember this. You've probably been in the time where you just come in there and you put your 2 cents worth in, and you know, you could just dialogue. And I had a lady one time tell me, she said, well, you know, when my kids do things, she said, I want to hear what they have to say. And sometimes, you know, we get kind of in a healthy debate. They start telling me about things. And I said, you can do all that. But you get somewhere where they can always argue and always do something like that, and I'll be visiting them at the prison. Because they're not going to obey the things they need to obey. And so I would have situations, and Brandon would come home, and I would think he had done something, and thank God this didn't happen a bunch of times, but before I even got the story, he was getting disciplined because somebody told me what the story was. And I didn't say, okay, well, let me check into that. And sometimes it caught me at a bad time. I don't know if any of you parents have ever had this, but you're down to your last nerve. And then they step on that nerve. And then it's game on. I mean, it's just, I mean, my kids used to be behind me back here, and Brandon was on one side, Brittany on the other, and they were goosing and, you know, hitting and quit touching me. And then I'd make statements like, I don't want anybody to ever touch anybody again in this car. Yeah. Sounds funny now, but I thought I was really making a declaration. If I have to say one more thing, I'm stopping this car. Of course, now they don't want you stopping on the freeway, but back then I was thinking, I'll pull this thing over and I'll be rear-ended by somebody, a drunk driver or something, because I'm going to stop this back here in the back, because that's how you get to feeling. And when you do that, and I've done this, I've had to go back up to the room where they were crying over the discipline and sit down and say, I want to tell you I'm sorry. I didn't get that story. Hug them up and tell them, listen, I'm sorry that I was angry when I heard that. And I thought there was something here. Now I've got the whole picture, and you didn't deserve that kind of situation. Well, Pastor, I don't want them to think that I could ever make mistakes. How will they know how to fix mistakes if we can't admit there are mistakes? There's healing with that, where you say, hey, listen, I'm sorry that, I was upset with you. I cut you off before you could even explain anything to me. I didn't know that was the situation, and I'm sorry. But sorry is the hardest word for us to say. I found out in marriages, a lot of times when I deal with people that are going through things in their marriage, one of the number one things, first of all, people can't talk to each other. They talk at each other. They go through life and they have conversation. But they never sit down and say, there are times that I'd like to eat where I was wanting to eat, but you always make the decision. And then if I say another thing, then you say, well, whatever. They never talk. Here's what makes a family. You talk, you trust, and then you touch them. Put your arm around them. Hug them up. You let them feel like we're a part of this. I can talk to you. You can talk to me. That's what makes a church family. We hug one another. We are able to talk to each other. Some people would rather talk about people than talk with people. Listen to me. You hear it all the time. You see it all the time. They never even talk to the person. They'll talk about the person. They feel more comfortable doing that because they don't have a relationship that they can reach out and just move past that. I've apologized to people that I have never wronged because I felt like they're going to carry something until somebody releases it. But we don't like to do it because we don't want to admit that we're wrong. Like Ken. Another thing, we feel entitled to the apology. I'm going to sit right here till they come. I'll sit right here until hell freezes over. Crazy statements like that. That's why people don't, loved ones, family members, they don't come to Christmas. They don't come to Thanksgiving. Only time you're going to see them is when somebody dies, and then you'll let them come up to the casket by themselves because you don't want to be around them. Well, you live all those years together, vacations, wonderful times together, and all it takes is somebody. Listen, anymore, people don't have to do anything bad. They don't have to shoot somebody. They don't have to steal something from a family member. All they got to do is just say something. Or maybe they didn't say something, and that's enough to keep somebody from coming to the gathering. I've had family members in my church in our family on both sides, Sister Macey's side and my side. We'd go and have a big time at a family gathering. I don't know if you ever had anybody like this. If you haven't, then we're the only two people that have crazy people in the family. But we have family members that when we'd get together for something and we thought we were all having a big time, later on they'd say, did you notice so-and-so, something's wrong with them? No, we were having a good time. So, well, they didn't say anything back. No, I didn't notice that. Well, I don't know. I just feel like they got something. There's something. Well, see, you're supposing. You don't know. I remember I walked out of this building one time. Somebody had told me, or it was the other building, somebody had told me, said, there was a child that had gotten something stuck in their throat, or they had passed out or something. The pastor come, and I took off. I was on my way because I was going to pray for them and try to help, do whatever I could possibly do. And I passed somebody up in our church, and then later on I got a phone call, and they left a message and said, I don't know what I've done to you, but I stuck out my hand, and you just blew right past me. And said, I don't know if I can come back to church. My feelings were hurt. I was just trying to reach out to you, and I didn't know if you loved me. And I thought, I'm a first responder. I'm sorry if I didn't give you a high five. I had something else to do. Sometimes people don't see you. Sometimes people don't, they got something else on their mind. Sometimes they're just one track and they got blinders on and they're just walking back and forth in this direction. But if you live your life always waiting on an offense, it will come. If you've always got the little chip on your shoulder, somebody's going to knock that off. But if you want to live in harmony, you got to learn how to bring unity together in your home, in the church, on your job. Amen. Well, thank you. That makes me feel a little bit good. Makes me feel okay that it's getting through. You ever work in an environment where there's always something going on? Now, I'm not going to get you to admit this, but on your job, there's always this little riffraff. Yeah, she gets to pour the coffee, and she's going in his office, and I notice they're taking too long for lunch. Yeah, but we can't take that long for lunch. Before I started pastoring, I know some of you don't think I've ever worked before, but there was a time I had a job before pastoring. Brandon told a kid this one time. He said, my dad doesn't work, he's a pastor. And he meant like have a job. He's learned that was a crazy statement. Man, there's times I wish I could just punch that clock. See you guys. Got a 2-week vacation. Don't call me, I'll call you. But on the job, somebody always thought somebody was getting a discount. Somebody was always getting something everybody else wasn't getting. It was just always this riffraff. Because of that, production was down. People didn't get along, and things were always bad. It can happen in a family. It can happen in a church. It can happen in a group. It can happen in any situation because people don't like to apologize. They feel like they're always owed that. Everybody comes to me and apologizes to me, but I don't say sorry to anybody because I really can't think of anything I've ever done that was wrong. Why would I need to say I'm sorry? If you feel like everything you do is right, you're a narcissist. Did you hear that? Go look up the definition of narcissism. They never do wrong. If anybody's offended, it's because you are offended at something, but not them. They can do no wrong. It's a disorder. It's a crazy disorder. But there are people, and you probably know some in your life, that's the way they live. And because of that, they become isolated from everybody else. And that just feeds the fact that I'm being mistreated. If a person is going to have friends, according to this, you got to show yourself friendly. I remember through the years, we'd have people in our church. I got to hurry. We'd have people in our church that would say, nobody ever invites me over. And one guy was telling me, he said, we just never get invited over. I said, you already invited anybody? Well, no, but, other people get invited. I said, well, that's a good place to start. Why don't you invite people? Another guy came and said, I can't believe people not inviting me. Other people are getting invited. I didn't say this, but I want to say, because your kids are terrorists. They're breaking everything. If they have you over, they just tear the house down, and you're just sitting there talking. You're totally oblivious of what's going on. That's going to be a one trip to my house. Yeah, because I'm just telling you, you're just going to be there one time. You kids got Kool-Aid in the living room, one time. You're going to visit one time. And I'm to the place, and maybe it just comes with the experience, but I'm to the place that we don't have food in the living room. We don't bring that in there. We don't sit down and eat on the couch. And this goes to my grandchildren and everybody. But if mom and dad is oblivious to that, then granddad needs to take over. Banner, get in there with the Pop-Tart. Banner, get back there with the milk. We don't drink milk here in the living room. Sometimes they're not even up yet. He got up early, woke me up, and woke us up, and there he is. He's always pushing the envelope. We're not taking anything upstairs to the playroom. It's carpet up there. Y'all can't take anything to the prayer room. And all of a sudden, I'll see the pantry door open over the little island there, and the light comes on. And a few minutes later, he comes around the pantry, and then I saw he's going up the stairs. He's got something in his hand. He's hiding it from everybody. Banner, what do you got? No Pop-Tarts upstairs. He has to come down and go through all that again. But some people live in a time of offense, and they never fix anything. Let me give you something else. They worry about the response that you're going to get when you do say, I'm sorry. We've had people where we went to them because we knew something was going on. We didn't know what. And we would go and say, listen, if I've done anything, please forgive me. I remember one time Sister Macey did this with a lady years and years ago. We were in an Anthem building back then, and she said, well, you have wronged me. And man, she just uncorked everything that she didn't like, everything that was wrong. And she just said, I am so sorry. I'm so sorry you feel that way. And we got in the car, and she said how hard that was. I thought, I don't know that I could do that. But I'm glad you did. And then here a while back, I got a message from that lady, and she said, the greatest times I had was with you and Sister Macey at Rollwood. That moment, we could have let it go down the line somewhere. But somebody has to be big enough to say, I'm sorry. All right, I know you're getting tired of the word sorry. You don't even want to hear about the game sorry. You're through. There's more effort to maintain the grudge than the effort that is required for the fix. You got to go around them. You can't, if it's at church, you got to go out another exit. You know, then if it pops up on Facebook, you got to make it a point not to like something instead of just going ahead. It's not that you're going to relieve them. Well, I don't want them to feel good. But they need to feel bad. Because if somebody's done this wrong, and instead of us fixing it, we want them to suffer. Well, they've never come and said, I'm sorry, and all of that. And if they ever did try to fix it, sometimes we don't let them off the hook because we feel like it's life without parole. They are going to have to carry their injustice to me from now on. But thank God the Lord don't operate that way. The forgiveness of others should be according to, as he said, as your heavenly Father forgives you. How many times has he forgiven us? How many times have we had to go back and he said, I have forgiven you? How many times has he wronged us? Never. But yet he still comes and brings forgiveness to us. Stand with me. Sometimes we don't fix it because we don't see the value of resolution. You know, there's some people in your life that if you don't hurry up and fix it, they're going to pass away. And I've listened to people stand in a casket and try to say things they should have said earlier. Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Mom. Oh, you know, we had such great times together. Well, why did you let them get away from you? Well, I just had things. And somebody asked me about my mom and dad. They said, you guys are so blessed. Dad, 95, Mom, 94. And I said, we are blessed. And then in parentheses, I said, sometimes. 94 years old, 90, and 95 can have certain challenges. Trust me. Took Dad to the eye doctor the other day. It was an event. They were trying to talk him into glasses. I was afraid he was going to go ahead and buy some. Dad, you don't need horn rim glasses. You're not going to need sunshades. Y'all don't go out in the sun. I mean, everything. Ronald, will you tell me about Whataburger and get 2 patty melts? You know what we do, son? We cut those things in half. Mommy's one. And he's told me that 50 times. And then it wasn't just enough. He said, now right here, turn right in here. See where that arrow is? Yeah, Dad, that's the drive-through. Yeah, come around the drive-through. All right, and then we got around there, he said, son, don't turn out there on the street because it's really busy there. And he said, go back here behind Cracker Barrel and drive out here on the, and I didn't say anything. I wanted to say, Dad, the reason you think it's busy is you were still driving a couple of years ago and everything scared you. What I can do, I can look, and if there's a space this wide, I can get across there. But I'm glad you didn't try it, Dad. I'm not going to give you any of these worldly songs. I hope you never listen to them. But Elton John, back in 1976, had a song that said, it's sad, it's sad. It's a sad, sad situation, and it's getting more and more absurd. It's sad, so sad. It's a sad, sad situation. Why can't we talk it over? Oh, it seems to me that sorry seems to be the hardest word. Pastor, I don't know anything about those old songs. Well, One Republic had a song in 2007. It's too late to apologize. I don't know anything about one Republic, but I do remember the song. That's 2007. Well, I'm not that old. Well, 2015, a singer named Justin had a song called Sorry. What are they saying? Sorry seems to be the hardest word. Let's get used to using it. Let's use it. Let's tell people we're sorry. Hey, man, I'm sorry. I just used sorry today a couple of times. Brother Marshall wanted me to speak at a thing on Saturday morning. And this is before Sister Treese passed away. And I have to help with that funeral on Saturday. But I told Brother Marshall I would come and speak at a thing that he had. And I wrote him back and I said, man, I'm so sorry. Sister Treese passed away and it's on Saturday and I have to be a part of that service. And I said, I sure wish I could be there. Please forgive me, man, I'm sorry. He said, oh, don't worry about it. I'm just glad to do it. I want to get used to it. I want it to be something I can freely say because this is how people can have unity and harmony. So today, if I didn't help anybody here, I really helped me today. If I've done anything to ever offend any of you, I am sorry. I told people that had been hurt in other places, people that were in our church went over, moved out of town, and something happened at the church and they were hurt. I've actually told them, listen, I don't know if anything was ever said back to you and you live in another state or you live far away, but I'm just going to tell you, I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry y'all went through that. Just go on with life, man. Don't let that be a hardship. Thank you for being here and thank you for listening to me. Don't forget, sorry seems to be the hardest word. God bless you.